Alright, in this video, this is going to be the second dual boot video I've been promising. This is going to use two different drives. In this case, we're going to install our Windows first on one drive, on one particular drive, not Microsoft OneDrive. Basically, what I do is I have my Windows 11 boot USB installed, and we are just going to go down and choose it. We're going to ignore the Fedora Windows Boot Manager here because these are from previous installs and I'm too lazy to delete them. So I'm just going to go here, choose my USB, and I'm just going to boot. This is going to load us into the Windows installer. We'll run through this pretty quick. It just installs like normal, and if you've never installed Windows, this will actually show you how. Spoiler alert, it's not that hard. But we'll wait for it to boot up. When it decides to boot up. Alright, so from here, this is Windows 11. Windows 10 is pretty much the same. So from here, I'm going to choose my language, my currency, and my keyboard layout, which default is to the US. I'm just going to click Next, Install Now. Wait for this to start up into the installer. All right, we're going to go to accept the terms and click Next. Now on here, you can either do an upgrade if you're upgrading from Windows 11 or some previous version. But for our purposes here, it's going to be like a clean install, which is going to be the second option, custom install Windows only advanced. So on here, what we're going to do is we're just going to highlight each one of these and delete them. Caution, this will completely wipe out all data that's on this drive. So if you have anything that you want to keep, you better back it up before you get this far into the video. So with a completely unallocated drive like this, we're just going to click New, Apply, OK. Windows will take care of the partitioning for you automatically. It'll automatically highlight the largest partition on the drive, and you just click the Format button and click OK. So now that it's formatted, we're just going to click Next, and it's going to go through its whole little spiel. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here because it's boring. Okay, after the initial install, like I said, it was just boring. It was just a little percentage thing going across. It's going to reboot. It's going to go ahead and start up for the first time. At this moment in time, if you want, you can go ahead and remove your USB. All the files have been copied over to the hard drive. I'm going to pause this again because Microsoft likes to waste your time by making you wait several minutes. Okay, after a couple reboots, it's going to get you to this screen right here. And basically all you got to do is answer some simple questions like, what country are you in? The keyboard layout, if you're in the US, just leave it as it is. And we're going to skip the second layout unless you need it. Checking for updates. This can also take a while, so I'm going to pause the video again. Okay, on this screen here, I just want you to name your device. It's optional, you don't have to, but if you have a special name you want to name your computer, just type it in here. Also says no more than 15 characters, can't contain only numbers. No spaces or special symbols other than a hyphen, dashes, and an underscore. Most people don't need it, so just click skip. And personal use. This could be work or school, but we're going to do personal use. Okay, this is where Windows 11 likes to hook you into having a Microsoft account. So we are going to go ahead and sign in. Is it possible to set up Windows 11 without using an online cloud account and using local accounts? Yeah, sure, outside the scope of this video. Okay, I'm going to pause the video while I get rid of this personal information. Okay, now that's put in there. I have multi-factor turned on for that email address, so I had to go through and have a code emailed to my personal email, and that's what I was hiding. On here, if you've set up before, it'll ask you if you want to restore from a PC. That's fine. Also, during this phase of the setup, if your if your monitor is blinking several times or fades in and out or whatever, that's just Windows installing graphics drivers in the back end. It's perfectly normal. Just let it do its thing. I'm going to go ahead and create a pin here. Don't care if you know what it is, but it's going to be hidden anyway. And this computer gets formatted daily anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Okay, and these questions are for you to answer on your own fruition, whether you want them or not. Just a little word of advice. If you turn advertising ID off, it does not reduce the number of ads Windows is going to push at you. This is just whether you want to target it or not. There is no thank you for the ads option. But anyway, outside the scope of this video, so we're just going to go ahead and accept. Skip. Skip. And skip. We're not backing up, not doing anything with our phones, nothing. This is just a basic Windows installation. Decline, don't need that. Decline, don't need that. Next. If for some reason I'm going too fast for you, you can slow the video down, pause, back up, whatever you need to do. Skip. All right, so while this runs, I'm also going to pause because it can take a few minutes. Okay, the next step will be it's going to reboot and install the updates it downloaded in the last step. So it takes forever. Pausing again. Okay, after it's finally done messing around and rebooting and upgrading and upgrading and rebooting, you finally get to the screen here. If it doesn't prompt you for your password or whatever, just either hit the escape key on your keyboard or click your screen there, and it'll just ask you for your PIN. And we'll log in for the first time. This too can take several minutes, so I'm going to pause. Okay, so once that's done, it's going to put you on your desktop. There's a couple things we want to do. First of all is we want to click search, and then we can just go with BitLocker. Back up your recovery key, save the file, and what it's going to do is save to a text file. We can get rid of that. Special drivers for my mouse, which are not needed. Go ahead and actually we'll just put that on the desktop. Save. Can't be used. Fine. Downloads. Fine. Cancel. Print the recovery key. Microsoft print to PDF. Print. Oh, it saved it anyway. Awesome. Save. Replace. Finish. Okay. So you're going to go in here to Documents. Make sure that it is visible. Take all this crap out. I already collected enough data about it anyway. This is the recovery key you need right here. Okay, so you can either print this out on your printer. You can upload this to cloud storage or whatever, so you can get to it from another device if you need it, whether your phone, laptop, tablet, or whatever. Do this first. Once that is done, we're going to go back over to BitLocker. We're going to suspend protection. Click yes. Now it says resume. Notice here it says it's suspended with the resume. That's exactly what we want. We don't want to do anything else at this point. The goal here is we're going to get both Linux installed and Windows installed, both on separate drives. Right now I only have the one drive in here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to shut the computer down and put the Linux hard drive in so we can get Linux installed. When I put the Linux drive in, I'm going to take the Windows drive out. And the purpose for this is now currently Windows is isolated on its own drive. When I take that out, we do the same thing for Linux. Linux is isolated on its own drive, and there's a 0% chance of cross-contamination between the two drives. See you in a minute. Okay, now that we got the drive swapped out, excuse me. Now that we got the drive swapped out, basically I just rebooted and now I'm back at the BIOS screen. For those of you that don't know how to get into your BIOS, that's up to your manufacturer. If it's a Dell, it's probably delete F12, delete or F12. Other combinations could be F11, F10, F8, F1, F2. You'll have to research that because I honestly don't know. It's going to be one of those usually. All right, so anyway, I'm going to do the same thing I did with Windows. I'm going to go down and choose my USB drive. Before I do that, just remember, I've already taken the Windows drive out. So there's only one drive in here, and we're just going to install Linux on it. In this example, I'm using Linux Mint. So we'll go ahead and hit that. And then we're just going to do this top one up here. If for some reason you try this top one and it doesn't work very well, the graphics are messed up or something like that, go ahead and reboot and try the compatibility mode. That should load just the bare drivers and allow you to get Linux Mint installed. But we're going to choose the top one. And we're going to let that boot up. Pause the video while it does that. Okay, now that we're on the Linux Mint desktop, if your boot off of USB takes an unusually long period of time, that is because Linux Mint is determining your hardware, and it takes a few minutes for it to do that. So it knows which modules to load. It's normal. It's not going to stay that way forever. So here we are on the Mint desktop. Before we continue, there are a few caveats to this entire process. If you decide to do this, you need to make sure that your Linux distribution matches the technology of the Windows version you're using. For example, if you were going to use Windows 11 like we're doing here, Windows 11 uses TPM version 2, and it uses Secure Boot over UEFI. So Linux doesn't care much about TPM, but you need to choose a distribution that still honors the Secure Boot and the UEFI. If you don't, you're going to miss something. You're not going to be able to boot into Linux, or you're not going to be able to boot into Windows without going into the BIOS every single time and changing settings. To prevent you from having to do that, it's best if you just pick a Linux distribution that supports the same technologies that Windows 11 does. Like, for example, I'm using Mint here. You can use Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora. Those kinds of distributions, the mainstream distributions, will support both Secure Boot and UEFI, so you don't have to worry about swapping settings in the BIOS every time you reboot. Having said that, let's go ahead and move forward. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to double click this Install Linux Mint. And this process is going to be a little slower too. It's booting off of a thumb drive instead of off of an actual hard drive. If you've installed Linux on any kind of drive before in the past, you know that it can take a few minutes longer than it normally does. However, I will continue to go ahead and pause the videos throughout just to save us some time. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so this is the first screen. As far as installing Linux Mint goes, choose your language. Continue. This is keyboard layout. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about right here where it's grayed out. It's got a check mark in it. You can't even change those options because it's got Secure Boot enabled. It's going to go ahead and take care of this as you boot through. Okay, word of advice, do not install multimedia codecs at this time because not only is this going to give you the codecs you want, but it's going to give you stuff that you don't want and stuff that might be a little buggy, like Adobe Acrobat Reader and those codecs that have a bunch of security holes in them. So do not check that right now. If you need specific codecs, wait until later and install those specific codecs and not like an entire whole bundle worth. Click continue. Pausing the video. Okay, on this screen here is where some of the magic happens. If we were dual booting like in the previous video where we're splitting the drive, at this point this installer would have already seen that you had Windows installed too. This screen is in its current context. And its current context is it only has one drive in it. It's only a single one drive. What portion of that single drive do you want to use? In our case, we're just going to use the entire thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and click install. It's going to erase the disk and install Linux Mint. While it's doing it, I'm going to pause the video again. Okay, on the screen here, it's just telling you that it's going to write the changes to the disk, but it's also going to destroy all the data that's on it. So again, you need to make sure you have everything backed up off this drive because it's about ready to get wiped out. So we're going to go ahead and click continue, and we're going to let it go. And I'm pausing the video. On the screen here, we're just going to choose our time zone where we're at. I am in the central time zone of the United States, so Chicago is me. Click continue. This is where you want to put in your name, password, and computer's name. And unlike Windows, a name for your computer is not optional. I'm just going to name this Mint. It's going to complain saying the name already exists. That's because that's the name on the ISO. Don't worry about it. When it reboots, this will be the only Mint there is. Choose my username, which I always use LTL, and our password. Continue. And it's copying files, so we're going to pause the video here and let it go. By the way, the reason why I keep pausing the video is this entire process, installing Windows and Linux, can very easily surpass an hour, hour and a half, because you're opening your machine, putting a drive in, taking drives out, sitting through the Windows installation process, sitting through the Linux process, and all that adds up. Right now, this video is sitting at 16 and a half minutes, and it's been paused at least twice as long as that. So bear with me. Okay, so once that's done, it's going to want to reboot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and restart now. So what we should have done is actually shut down, but that's okay. If you restarted, that's fine. Once it comes back up, we'll go ahead and shut it down. I'm going to pause the video until it's done. Another thing you could do is once you get to the screen here, it wants you to unplug your USB and then hit enter. But what you can do is go ahead and unplug your USB and long press on the power button and shut it down. Okay, so after you shut it down, go ahead and disconnect it, put your Windows drive back in it. So now you have both hard drives in it. When this boots back up, it should automatically boot back into the Linux. If it doesn't, you go ahead and reboot and change it in your BIOS to boot to the Linux partition. That's what we need to go to next. So I guess I'll go ahead and pause this until we get onto the Linux desktop. Okay, once you're on the Linux desktop, go ahead and log in. Okay, so now once we're logged in, what we're going to do is the very first thing we're going to do, we're going to ignore this for right now. I'm just going to close it. What we're going to do now is we need to make sure that Linux knows that Windows is there. So right now they don't know about each other. Windows is on one drive, Linux is on the other. So now we're going to introduce Windows to Linux. And the way we do that is we're going to open up a command prompt. Okay, and once we have the command prompt, it'll be sudo update-grub. Okay, so once you do sudo update-grub, it's update, not upgrade, update grub. Hit enter, put in our password. Okay, it's going to run that again. And notice this line right here. It said it found Windows Boot Manager on your other drive. That's what we have to make sure that's in there like that. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do is reboot into Windows, and I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to sudo reboot. Again, this will still boot to Linux. Linux is now going to be your default. If you want to boot into Windows, I'm about to show you how to do that. All right. So once you get to the grub boot menu, which is this one right here, okay, you can hit the up down arrow to stop the boot timer. All right. So you can boot into Linux, advanced options for Linux. Notice this third one down. You now have Windows Boot Manager in here. So if we select that and hit enter, and it's going to boot into Windows. Now, there's one thing that it might do, maybe, and that is ask you for your BitLocker key. If that's the case, we will go ahead and put the BitLocker key in that you had. It should not, though, because if you remember, we paused it. All right, so there we go. Now, one thing that can happen, and if it does happen, it's going to be in the near future. The next time Windows does an update, it can change your boot order in the BIOS. And when it does that, it can actually trigger BitLocker again. So it's a good idea to have that key handy. One thing, the only time it's happened to me, the way I fixed it was not put the BitLocker key in. I rebooted and went back into the BIOS and changed it back to Linux to be the default boot drive, and then everything worked. I booted back into Linux, and at the grub menu, I selected Windows, and it was nice and happy. Okay? All right. If you skip the step of pausing, at this screen right here, you had been met with BitLocker instead of your login screen. Okay, so we're going to log in. We're going to double check to make sure that BitLocker is now activated, which it should be, B-I-T. I'm looking for Manage BitLocker. At this point, it should say BitLocker is on, and you have the option to suspend and not resume. Okay, so now that we've done that, we got one more reboot to do. And I do apologize for all the reboots. We're just making sure absolutely everything works. Making sure Windows works, making sure Linux works before we continue. There's nothing more frustrating than booting into Windows or into Linux only to find out the other operating system doesn't work after you just spent 45 minutes to 2 hours configuring your Linux, and now you got to reinstall everything. So we're going to make sure both boot perfectly the way they're supposed to, and then you can start customizing the way you want. So this is just going to be a straight boot, straight into Linux Mint. All right, see right there is exactly what I was telling you was going to do. It changed the boot order. I'm just going to Control-Alt-Delete. When that boot screen comes up, we're going to hit our F12 or whatever key we need to get back into here. Then you're going to go into BIOS Setup, and you're going to change your boot configuration to where Linux is going to be, in this case, is going to be Ubuntu, because Linux Mint uses Ubuntu's thing. So I can go ahead and delete this. I don't have Fedora on here anymore. And we're going to move that up. So the Ubuntu is the first thing it boots into, not Windows. We're going to apply our changes. Okay. Exit. Now since it did that, I'm going to try booting into Windows one more time. It should work. Get to our grub menu, choose Windows. It should go right in. There's our login screen. It means it worked. So if we click on this, down in the lower right-hand corner, you see this button all the way at the bottom. That's your power. Just go ahead and restart. You don't have to log in order to reboot. So we're going to let it run. It should run back into Linux again. That's the expectation, is it boots into Linux. And there you go. So we confirmed that it boots into Windows. We overrode the BitLocker setting, and we did it by just simply changing the boot order back to Linux. And at this point, this video was done. You can do whatever you want to do. Change your wallpaper, run updates, upgrades, all that stuff. Restore from backup your files, whatever you want to do. If you like these videos, like to see more, make sure you click like and subscribe.